Okay, I was just making the math. This is the 31st Virtual Facilitation Practice. So we have been doing this for a while, more than 2 years already. And to invite nice people, people that I love and that I have been learning things with, and they come to offer something for the community, something to learn, something to chew on. So it's always different. And to close the year in style, preparing ourselves for the closing of the year, Ezra is so Ezra is a very special person for myself and for Carolina as well. We did a celebration in the middle of this year. This is a very special year for us because we celebrated our 20th anniversary and also 10 years in Canada. So half of our marriage were in Brazil, half of our marriage was in Canada. We got our permanent residency in Canada. We have the birthdays in the same month. So we decided, okay, let's celebrate all this. And then it's okay, but we need to make it special. And then we asked Ezra to guide us through the process to come up with a celebration, and it was beautiful. So we know the theory, we know his process, and we apply in practice, and it's amazing. So I think he'll be giving ourselves a glimpse of his talents, and he'll be introducing himself in a minute. But I'm very happy to have you here with us, Ezra. Thank you for carving the time to be with us for this short period of time, but I'm very happy. Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know if our audio is shopping a little bit. So we are in Brazil and in a beautiful place called Florianópolis in a beach. So the infrastructure here is not like Canada.
But the beaches are beautiful.
Yeah, but there's no beach like this in Canada. So sorry about that if it's chopping a little bit, but let's move on. And thank you everyone to come and Ezra. And yeah, and let's start with the improv networking. So in pairs, 4 minutes, you are gonna talk about rituals. So what rituals do you know, and where or were you in a ritual recently, and what do you expect to get from this practice, and how you can contribute with this group? So those are the questions that we are gonna talk during the 4 minutes. So we're gonna have 3 rounds, 4 minutes each, and you're gonna meet 3 different people to talk about rituals. And
here we go.
Oh,
you hit the button.
Oh, I did by accident. Oh,
no, it's okay.
wow.
It's a warning saying that you still have 30 seconds.
Oh, because Patty and I were talking, and then we both appeared here by accident. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have a new chance now to meet another person.
Exactly.
And to have a good conversation with another person. And don't hit the button because you have 30 seconds more to talk. Yeah. And sometimes just to wrap up the conversation or something like that.
Here we go. 4 minutes. Second round.
Hey, Julie.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so now we're
Sabina, everyone. Nice. Everybody stay there for the whole time, which is good. And I like this, smile in the faces. I believe that they're having good conversations, and another chance. So another round for that.
Oh.
Last round.
Yeah, last one. So 3 people you're gonna meet. Of bio.
Yeah.
Everybody's back.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes we have like the taste that I want a little bit more. So this is good because they're gonna have more chance to connect with people. And so we are here with this topic. So demystifying ritual. And for that, we have Ezra here with us. And I just can say that he is amazing. So we did a session with him and I was like, oh, 30 minutes and it looks like a therapy, a couple therapies. Because he was asking so much things for us to understand about our ritual when we start like thinking about our ritual and was our ceremony. It was so interesting. So I'm glad that he could make it to in his agenda to put this time for us here. And I think it's with you, Ezra. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor. It really is. And the love is mutual. And you're right. I feel so intimately connected with you after those sessions, and so invested in like your marriage and all that sort of stuff. So it's an honor to be here with all of you. It's really extraordinary. It actually is really extraordinary that we're all here. It's not easy to show up these days and take 90 minutes out of our life. I know that probably a lot of you have like other tabs running in your brain right now, and like that email that you still need to send, and maybe check the news, and also like, who is this guy? And this better be worth my time. And like that whole tab is running. And still you all chose to prioritize showing up. And I really don't take that for granted, and we all shouldn't. So as a way to mark that and honor that and maybe ritualize that, I'm going to ask you actually for the next, let's say we got an hour together. So take this little thing we love, goodbye, and just put it like somewhere where you don't see it. You can put it behind you. You can put it in a drawer, just like somewhere where you don't see it. And I'm not going to ask you to close your tabs, because that, just the thought of that like sends fear down my spine. But maybe just maximize zoom on your screen, the little green button up in the left-hand corner. Maximize zoom. Let it take over your screen so we can really be here together. I'll ask you one more thing. Let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, there's 18 people. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Everybody just stand up. I don't need to see you, it's okay. Stand up, you can even move off screen. There's 18 people who chose to show up today to learn and to grow, and also to show up for you, to be here for you too, which is amazing. So we're gonna clap 18 times, one for each person here, all together. If you're in an office, you can do little golf claps, but whatever it is, 18 times. Got it? Yeah? All right, rub your hands together. Okay. And whenever you're ready, 18 times. Take a deep breath. Gratitude, 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 gratitude. Okay. All right, why was that a ritual? What made that a ritual? Open question.
We all participated in it together and did the same thing to commemorate something.
Okay, so doing it together, like shared activity, and commemorating. Sure. Yeah. What else? I love the hand clapping. Okay, so one clap for each person. Okay, I don't know. Maybe there's something there. What else?
It had some meaning because we were doing it for the number of people in the Zoom room.
It wasn't totally arbitrary. It wasn't just clapping. There was some sort of, it was different than a normal clap, because normally we're not counting claps. So it was different from the norm, and it was more meaningful because it was connected to all of us. It was symbolic. Linda, if you can, tell me more. What does that mean, symbolic?
To me, it's what people have been saying, that there were 18 claps and there are 18 people, and so that each clap seemed to stand for a person, yet it came together as a whole thing.
Ah, right. So what we were doing was putting our hands together and making noise, this activity that we're all very familiar with. But it meant more than that. It wasn't just clapping, it meant more. What did it mean? I sort of said it at the beginning. What did it mean? Unity.
It was an acknowledgement of others, the participants, those of us who showed up for each other today.
Yeah. It was acknowledging each other. It was communicating gratitude. It was signaling, I see you. I'm aware that you're here and I'm honoring that. All of that. It meant more than what we did. Yeah. We can keep going. Bruce, it would be a ritual if we did it every time we met. That's a great point. We're gonna actually let's just dive in and take a closer look at that. By the way, I'm Ezra. Hi. I think I'm supposed to introduce myself. I rarely do that. I'm Ezra. What's important? You can read about my bio and stuff like that online, so I won't bore you with that. But I have a creative studio. It's called Ritualist. I design rituals for a living. It's the coolest job ever. I think what drives me, what I love, I'm really fascinated by transformation. How does it happen? And what are the experiential conditions for transformation in people's lives? And this question of like, okay, what are rituals? And then even more like interesting for me is, why are some rituals more impactful than others? Like, what separates a good ritual from like a boring ritual that you can't wait to get out of? And that's what I've spent the last decade of my life researching. So all right. So Bruce, we're going to take a closer look at that question of yours. Really, for the next 60 minutes or so, I'm going to ask you to throw out everything that you think that you know about ritual, because they are one of the most misunderstood features of human behavior. They actually don't need to be religious or spiritual, and they don't need to be rigid structures. They don't even need to be repeated, because actually the most important thing about rituals, the primary way that rituals have their effect, is through differentiation, which is a term coined by the ritual researcher Catherine Bell to refer to the way rituals strategically differentiate. No, I'm just joking. I'm not going to do the whole thing like that. But how long do you think you could have listened to me before burning out like that? Right? Anybody's life feeling a little bit like those last 20 seconds? Kind of like a run-on sentence. Each day and week and month sort of bleeding into the next one without much distinction. This is the power of ritual. Rituals are punctuation for the run-on sentence of our lives. Rituals are punctuation for the run-on sentence of our lives. Here's what I mean. 3 years ago, my dad almost died from a rare lung infection. After fighting for his life for 6 weeks in the ICU, he was finally ready to go home. And here's the big video of this big moment. That's it. My father nearly died, and we marked the moment of his miraculous recovery with a few random nurses who just so happened to be in the hallway, lovingly but half-heartedly clapping, and then a slice of pizza and a beer. Honestly, it's pretty standard. I imagine it sounds pretty similar to most of your own experiences, either picking someone up or leaving the hospital yourself. Now, this is Matt Driscoll. He was diagnosed with leukemia at 16 years old. And the next few years were hell. Chemo, isolation, missed school. But 3.5 years later, he finally finished his last treatment and got to ring the Akron Children's Hospital's cancer-free golden bell. This is what that looked like. In an interview after, Matt said that this was the happiest day of his life. The happiest day. And all it took was a bell and a big piece of butcher paper. Obviously, it also took his family and friends making the effort to show up, but all it took was a bell to bring them together. Plus, like, lots of emails and probably like WhatsApp threads and coordination, but that's exactly the point. Right? The way that I picked up my dad was definitely easier. And it left us both feeling empty and unresolved. So what gets in the way? Rituals are universal human behavior. They have been found in every single culture, in every part of the world, through all of human history, going back to our earliest ancestors. A reminder that we had rituals before we even had the word ritual. Rituals are our right. Little ritualist humor there for you. So why are they disappearing from our lives today? If rituals are a fundamental tool that we've used for all of human history to build communities, to grow culture, why are we consistently leaving them out of the conversation? So 2 main reasons. Number 1 is that we all think that we're too busy, that we just don't have the time or the energy or the resources, emotional or otherwise, to ritualize our lives. So this is a true story. There's a pretty famous ritual at Burning Man that as you arrive at the entrance, if it's your first time at Burning Man, they make you get out of the car and lay your very fresh, clean body down into the dust and make like a dust angel, and then you ring a bell. So it's my first time, and I'm at will call picking up my ticket. And the person checking me in hands me my ticket and says, hey, little piece of advice. If it's your first time, don't tell them at the entrance, because the whole dust angel thing, it slows down the line. And in my head, I'm like, isn't that the whole point? So this is a photo of me doing it. Anyway, obviously. So we might not have a line of cars in our lives, but we do have a line of to-dos. And what I've seen from over a decade of designing rituals is that we all feel so exhausted and depleted by the pressure of our lives that we can't even imagine the thought of adding more on top of it. We want everything to be automatic and frictionless, kind of flat, like this line. Understandably. Tuesday kind of feels like Thursday, September feels like October, this webinar feels a lot like the last one that I did. It all just feels the same and then bleeds together. But the irony is that this is what is eviscerating us. It's this unrelenting sameness that is actually what drains us and depletes us over time. It's not that we're too busy. It's that we're trading the short-term ease for long-term unhappiness anxiety, and burnout. Because we're missing out on the full experience of life, right? That little tiny bump could actually be a mountain of joy. And that little divot is actually a canyon of grief, which, by the way, doesn't disappear just because you take a detour around it. This is why we need rituals. They are punctuation for the run-on sentence of our lives. At each part of, in each of those yellow lines, right? Like at that crest and at that bottom, like there's a ritual there that's helping you mark it and see it and name it and feel it. Like this one. This is a big public 2020 COVID birthday redo that I threw 2 years ago for anyone whose birthday got skipped during lockdown. Right? We could have easily just blown past those birthdays, but instead we transformed our collective loss into an opportunity for collective joy and healing. Or this one, this is a Simpson Manufacturing. It's about 3,000 employees. They're known for their strong culture. You know, one of those sort of family-run businesses. And the guy, Mr. Simpson, who founded it, he's got these 9 principles of doing business. And one of the principles is the company dignifies the contribution of every individual at every level, which is a nice thing that a lot of companies probably say, and they email it to you in a PDF when you onboard, and then you never hear about it again, right? But they don't. They actually ritualize it and symbolize it by the CEO attending every single onboarding and shaking hands with every employee and welcoming them to the company. He physically sees every single person. Simple ritual. But it interrupts the normal routine of onboarding and slows us all down long enough to zoom in and see the significance of this change that's happening and to embody their values. You can see this is why Dr. Isabel Benke, the evolutionary biologist, she says, tell me what rituals you do and I'll tell you who you are. You can already just, if you didn't know anything about Simpson Manufacturing, but you just as an alien came down and saw them do that, what would you learn about who they are and what they value, what the CEO values in how he spends his time? And just keep that in mind as we look. I'm going to throw out a couple of other examples and just see what you're learning about these people just by knowing what rituals they do. This is Downtown Magnets High School in LA, and they throw a college rejection letter party each year where the students, they run their rejection letters through a paper shredder while everyone cheers, and then they eat ice cream and they pledge to not let college define them. You get a reward. Whoever has the most rejection letters gets a reward. They get crowned king or queen, right? Rituals make the intangible tangible. Intangibly, I'm rejected from a college. What does that even mean? We've made it tangible, which allows us to actually fully feel and process the emotions that we otherwise repress. Or Be Real, which is trying to ritualize social media by having users all do something at the same time, right? Very simple tweak. It's still social media, but just by changing the timing of it and differentiating from the norm through that, they transform a solo activity to a communal one and help people zoom out and feel connected to something bigger than themselves. I'm not saying all rituals are good, by the way, or good for us, but they are powerful. Or REI, which closes all of its stores on Black Friday and urges employees and customers to opt outside and go outdoors instead of shopping. Tell me what rituals you do and I'll tell you who you are. Or where we started, this is a dance community called Body Language that's trying to reinvent club culture to be more inclusive and respectful and actually about dancing. So they got a ton of rituals. They have these ritual rules. So there's no drinks or phones allowed on the dance floor. So if you're on the dance floor, you're there to dance. And they have this opening intention, and then like halfway through when everyone's hot and sweaty, they go around with trays of cut up cold pineapple to just like refresh you on the dance floor. And the pineapple has since become this like symbol and logo of the community. Something about spiny outside, sweet inside, that kind of thing. But they rituals lift up our values and embody them. They lift up what's most important to us.
Missed that one.
Or here's another one of my favorites.
Traverse the screen. Here come the Bears over the blue line. Scarbosa in front, deflection, stop by Huska. Rebound. It's Teddy Bear pass time. Here they come. Christian Juice slips the goal. It's raining stuffed animals in Chocolate Town.
Raining stuffed animals in Chocolate Town. This is the Hershey Bears teddy bear toss. It's a holiday toy drive.
This is a sight to be seen. I'm gonna have to talk for a little bit.
They have the record for most amount of stuffed animals ever thrown onto the ice.
But that's great to see. It's a wonderful spectacle here at Giant Center.
So you can imagine, right? What normally happens? You just bring your bear, you put it at the like big sort of like bin at the front, and you forget about it. But they transform that activity into something that people are actually excited about, and they raise more. They have more bears donated than anyone else. But it doesn't need to be a whole big thing. I've shown you a lot of like big type of rituals. My computer password is deep breath. It's just there as a reminder. It's a little bit of friction when I log on for work. I don't always do it. I wish I did, but it's there when I need it the most. Or this study out of Harvard Business School and the University of Minnesota, which gave a really simple ritual to a group. Without unwrapping, they gave them a chocolate bar, and they told them, without unwrapping the chocolate bar, break it in half, then unwrap half of the bar and eat it, and then unwrap the other half and eat that. And the group that performed the ritual rated the exact same chocolate bar better tasting and more expensive than the group without the ritual. Same exact thing. Now, Bruce, they never did that ritual before, and they've never done it again. Was it a ritual? Let's take a look. So I would imagine about now, you're probably thinking something along the lines of, that's all good for other people, but I don't even know where to start. Well, so that's the second big reason why rituals are disappearing from the world today. There are so many misconceptions. Most of us unconsciously assume that we're not allowed to ritualize moments in our lives, but we don't actually have the authority or the ability to do so because of what we've been taught by the culture around us. This photo is the second result when you Google ritual, which drives me crazy. Because as you saw in all those examples, you don't need robes or candles or crystals. You don't need Sephora's starter witch kit or to shop at Bed Bath & Beyond's Ritual and Renew section, because it's not your hair care ritual. It's just shampoo. You don't need to buy anything at all, actually. And you don't need to worry about rigidly doing something the exact same way for the rest of eternity. Rituals don't even need to be repeated. Rituals don't even need to be repeated. Rituals don't even need to be repeated. You see, there's no amount of repeating that would make it a ritual, okay? And there's no amount of like religiously spraying your flush ritual spray that's going to make the bathroom a meaningful experience, okay? And like many of those examples, like the COVID birthday was never done before, and hopefully will never be done again, but it was still very much a ritual. So let's just throw these things out. Religious, repeated, rigid. None of those are actually supported by the research. Instead, I'm going to ask us to think about these three things: intentional, symbolic, and special. Amazingly, all of these words came out in your and when I asked you at the beginning, why was that a ritual? Because we get it, right? We sense it. So if you want to create a new ritual or reinvigorate an old tradition, I've actually created a really simple way of doing this. You only have to ask yourself 3 questions. This is a great place to start. I promise you, you'll be able to remember them. Okay, you ready? Y'all with me? Ready? All right. Here's the. Okay, Zoom is trying really hard to ritualize the experience. That was bizarre. I've never seen that before. Yes, ritual. Okay. So here's the 3 questions. Why are we doing this? Or why am I doing this? If you're thinking about yourself, why are we doing this? That's the intention. What's the purpose? What impact are you trying to have? Then why are we doing this? This is the symbolism, right? What does that purpose mean to us? If I saw your group, or I saw you leading your facilitating something online, and I saw you do that thing, what would I learn about you? What does it signal about what you care about, what you value, what's most important to you? Why is that purpose important? Why are we doing this? How might it mean more than what you're actually doing? Right? And then finally, why are we doing this? Of all the things that you can do to achieve that purpose, why this? If I wanted to mark the moment of us coming together and learning together, why clapping? Why clapping 18 times? Why stand? Why say those things that I did before to frame it, right? Why this? Because there's a lot of things that we could do to mark our time together. Why clapping, right? And this is like the differentiation. How is it different from the norm? How is it special or elevated? So why are we doing this? I told you it'd be easy to remember. So let's see, how are we doing on time? 9:50, great. Yeah, we're doing great on time. So I would love, could someone from the group, anybody who wants to, give me an example of a ritual either that they're working on, or something that you want to be a ritual that you're not really sure if it is yet, or maybe holidays are coming up, a tradition in your lives that might want to be reinvigorated in some way or given some new life. And we're gonna run through these. I'm gonna just sort of show you these questions in action, and then we'll break off into groups and we'll take a closer look at, I know that you all are thinking about maybe your own work or rituals in your own lives, and we'll work on this together. So is it Farah or Farah?
Farah.
Farah. Hi, Farah. Thanks for raising your hand.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. We have a very very important ritual, which is intentional, symbolic, and special at this time of year, called Shabi Yelda. My heritage is Persian, and so we celebrate the longest night of the year. And as long as my husband and I have been together, it's been something that we do every year. And then when our kids were born, we did it very much. And now our kids are living in different places. And for the very, very first time, they're not going to be home for Shabi Yelda. And it really has kind of broken my heart, I have to say, because I love, not being Christian and not being part of the dominant culture. I love really reinvigorating things that our ancestors have done, and just giving us as a family something profoundly meaningful that we've done for thousands of years as a community. And so we're going to do it on Zoom, just my husband and I and the 2 boys. And normally we have like this huge family around us. And yeah, my question is like how to kind of reinvigorate it, because that's why I raised my hand. It's just, yeah, so it's just going to be the 4 of us on Zoom. Very, very different than normal. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So let's dive in. Let's take a closer look. You already have been sort of signaling some of these things, but let's just name them explicitly. And what I'll ask is, there's a lot of different ways that you could answer this, right? You could answer from a kind of like mytho-theologic cultural element. You can also talk about you personally and your relationship to those elements. Talk about both. What I'm most interested in is you personally, but you can talk about both. So when we talk about the purpose or the intention of Shabiyal, could you put it in the chat, because I want to make sure I get it right?
Yeah, sure. Shabi Yelda.
Shabiyalda.
Shab is night. Yelda is the name of the time. Shabi Yelda. Yeah. So for me personally, it's really, really meaningful, partially because we do it with poetry. And I love poetry, and I especially love Persian poetry. Like I live on a diet of Persian poetry. Like I absolutely love Khayyam and Rumi and Sanai and Attar. Like, yeah, I'm a yoga teacher, and the poems for me are very, very resonant with yoga. Like they're really about love and kindness and feeling connected to all people and feeling connected to the planet and the earth. And yeah, very deeply spiritual in their meanings usually. And so the poetry that we do, we pass around the Divan Hafiz, which is the very, very thick book of the collected works of the poet Hafiz. And we always do it bilingual in the Old Persian and the English. So it's not like a regular poetry reading. It's almost like reading a tarot card. So the whole family, everybody who's there, gets the poetry book in their hand, and then you do yek dose 1 2 3, and you open it up, and then you get your poem, and you get the message from the poet, and it's uncanny in its kind of magical way of finding meaning for every single person. Like one year we had some of our Indigenous friends for Shabi Yelda, and they're activists in their community. And the first poem one of them picked was all about land. And it was like, oh, well, that's what they're all about. They're all about land. And so it almost always works like that. Like you pick this poem and it just speaks right to you, even though it's a poet who died centuries ago. So that's why I really love it. And I also really love being able to raise our kids in a way that connects us to our ancestors. That's just really, really important to me, that we feel like we stand on the foot, on the shoulders of these beautiful ancient people who aren't with us anymore, but who have left us so much beauty.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. So I heard a number of things there, and we'll all just sort of see, right, that there's very rarely a single purpose of a ritual. It's okay to have multiple purposes. As designers, it sometimes helps to narrow in on one and really develop that, and to also recognize that in any kind of experience that you're creating, there's going to be the purpose that you're designing for, and then there's going to be the unintentional or sort of secondary impacts that happen inevitably that you can't necessarily plan for, but that will emerge naturally from the experience. But I heard a number of things. You were already talking about this, right? Here's some of the things that we do. The purpose, right, is not to read poetry. That's the tool that you have. To what I heard is have the past speak to the present. The past speaking to the present is one of the purposes of celebrating this holiday for you. And implied in that is a connection to our ancestors. And what I didn't hear is longest night of the year. So tell me about the purpose of why on that date the purpose is this is relevant.
We've always been very earth-based as a community, so we celebrate every time the earth turns. So the earth is turning, and at this time there's an opportunity to really celebrate the darkness and the length of the night. And so we do it by being together, honoring our elders, hearing them tell stories, and then eating. Like we have very specific foods we eat. We eat pomegranate and watermelon and dried pumpkin seeds with dried fruit, and of course, a huge dinner. And so it's the night. It isn't an anti-darkness celebration at all, but it is kind of this idea that it is the longest night, and then you wake up the next morning and the light is coming back. So that's really relevant. Like, you know, you kind of, as you're supposed to stay up late. That's the whole idea of it. You're supposed to be long into the night, and then, you know, you wake up the next day and there's going to be just that much more light coming the next day.
Mm-hmm. So if you were going to focus in on this impact or the purpose of having the past speak to the present, why is that important to you specifically? And I'm thinking especially as in the context of you as a mother and bringing your family together. Why is that important? What does that mean to you? What would it mean to you if that was successful?
This is a really like deep question for me, because like I married my husband it was in a dream. Like I thought of him, I dreamt about him before I met him. And it was partially because I come from this ancient community, and I noticed there's one person from Iran here. So she will know we're called the Zagtishti in Iran. So I come from this ancient community that we had to leave our homeland because we come from this different religion. We come from this really old religion called Zoroastrianism. And then we went to India, and then I was born in Kenya, and then my kids were born in Canada, and my husband was born in Iran, which is why I feel so connected to him, like to our old past. And so for our kids, it's just so huge to be able to feel like there's this one root that connects us through thousands of years. And, you know, I don't think they're there yet. Like our younger son is always teasing me and saying, Mom, I really feel like I'm very white. And I'm like, oh, this is like the worst thing.
Oh.
It's really hard for me to hear him say that. So I work in public health, and I do anti-racism, decolonial work in public health. I work in global public health. And part of my day job is all about like reinvigorating like ancient traditions like yoga and Ayurveda. And so it's not just me personally that this is important for. This has a lot of echoes in my whole world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what do roots provide?
Solidity, stability, self-knowledge, confidence, and knowing that you're not alone, knowing that you're not really that different, even if you don't celebrate Christmas or, you know, or whatever. And really Canada's a pretty not religious society. So it's not like when I was a kid, like, you know, all the kids would come to school with their presents and stuff, and I wouldn't have any because that wasn't what we did, you know. But there's a part of that, the healing of that sort of feeling of, you know, being an immigrant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we have this purpose, this intention, this desire for the past to speak to the present, because when the past is silent, when we don't listen to the past, I feel unrooted. And when I feel unrooted, my confidence, stability, solidity, a sense of belonging withers. When my roots wither, I am less able to to grow leaves so that people can sit under me, to provide shade, to have fruit, to give. Because if I'm not solid, I can't do any of that. And I think that's particularly poignant at a time of what it sounds like instability in the family. People are moving, there's change. So what do we hold on to in a time of change? What's most important to us? What gives us solidity? Um, and what will nourish our roots. Now, the next step, right, is to with that question and with that sense of, I know why I'm doing this, and I know why we're doing this. I know why this is important to us. Now your creativity as a ritual designer comes in. And your personality as a ritual designer. And there's really no right or wrong way to go about this. There's no, the quality of a ritual really depends on how effective is it at achieving the intention that you've set out and that you've created. That's the only metric that you're looking at. So this is where we would get really creative. And I want to be conscious of time and make sure that we all have a chance to do this. Now, I'll tell you, you all got emailed a PDF, right, Fernando? Yeah. So this is the next step in my design process. Once I have some clarity on the why and the we, the symbolism, the intention and the symbolism, I take a look at the other one. I take a look at what I call the ritual lines. These are 7 lenses to look at meaningful, transformative experiences. They're lenses, they're questions. They're like the lines on which a meaning often travels, and they weave together. And this whole process it's discursive, right? So you start to develop this thing, and then you're like, oh, I think my intention is actually this, because now I know that poetry is a thing and the synchronicity of poetry. So now and it all kind of ends up weaving. It's not so linear. But this is where I would take the next step. And for these 7 lines, I would take a look at, okay, so for instance, when is this happening, right? Is this, what's the difference between doing this at 2 in the morning or 8 o'clock right after dinner? What's the, is this a 30-minute Zoom? Or are you as a family committing to, like, we're going to just put Zoom on for the whole night? Some of us are going to go to sleep because we're all in different time zones and this, and we're going to watch sunrise there, but it's still sleeping here. But like, that's the point. Zoom, the portal of Zoom is going to be open all night. It's going to be a 12-hour ritual instead of a 30-minute ritual, right? There's no right or wrong answer to there. But you see, like, how my brain is going to start working about, like, what's the norm? How do I differentiate from the norm to lift it up as special, connected to your purpose and the symbolism and what it means to you, like grounded by that. And that's what this process looks like. So I would sort of run through these lines and we would take a look at them, like, how are you engaging the body? Oh, you're a yoga instructor. Are you moving? Are you dancing? Are you like, or are you just sitting and talking? Is it no screens versus all screens? Is the Zoom room maximized to take over the whole screen? Or is it just like on your phone so you can go for a walk together? Right? All these are spaces of creativity. The one thing that I would say to you is, and the last thing I'll say before we break off into twos is, and this is part of my design philosophy, and I imagine whether you're designing a ritual or not, since you're all expert facilitators, is the idea that obstacles as opportunities. Obstacles as opportunities. And so what I hear you describing is, we have this new obstacle of not being together. So we can't take for granted the connection that would happen when we were in person. It just naturally happens. And there's a way in which you confront that as an obstacle. Like, how do I make it so it's not that? Rather than saying, like, oh, what is possible now because we're on Zoom that wouldn't be possible otherwise? What is available to me now? Do we get to watch sunset over 6 hours because we get to see sunset in 3 different time locations? Cool. That wouldn't be possible if we're together. And I hear there's a grief of not being together, which could also be an obstacle, or it could be a real opportunity to examine as a family, like what does connect us? What does root us as a family, even when we're afar? And to process that emotion and not to just sort of leave it as subtext that you never name. Okay, just my little advice on the outside. Okay, so now y'all see what the process looks like. I'm gonna ask us to break off into twos, and we've got, let's say 16 minutes, 8 minutes each, to go through this process. And you as a partner can ask these questions. Why are you doing this? And you saw that I wasn't always satisfied with the first answer. Well, why is that important to you? And why is that important to you? And keep digging until you hit something solid. And if you end up brainstorming this using the ritual lines, go for it. As a point, the ritual lines is we take 9 weeks in my workshop to move through each of those. So you're getting the 201 on like expert level, 10 minutes. So if it doesn't all make sense to you now, be compassionate with yourself. This is a skill that takes time to develop, but you're all experts, so we're just throwing you into the deep end. Sound good? So just think about a ritual in your life, maybe that you want to create, or something that you already have in your life that maybe you want to reinvigorate or take a closer look at or breathe some new life into, or to understand more. Yeah, totally. And here's the question. All right, 8 minutes each. I'll see you back here, and I might dip around and eavesdrop. So don't mind me. Ignore me.
Here we go. Oh, someone dropped. So let me rearrange. Okay, here we go.
Hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody. Well, gosh,
Ezra, while we're waiting for people to come back, I know they're coming, and I don't know if you can address this at all in the short time we have, but I'm very curious about the difference between tradition and ritual.
Sure. We do have a short amount of time. In succinctly, some rituals can be traditions and some traditions can be rituals, but not necessarily the case. Traditions are actions that gain meaning through repetition. Right. So if every time this group met for the next year, you did the clapping thing, and like it grew on meaning, and like sometimes it was 18 claps and sometimes it was 14 claps, sometimes 20, and it just grew in meaning. It was a thing that you did. It could become a tradition because it was meaningful because it's repeated or through its repetition. The idea, though, is that that's not the only reason that it can be meaningful. That's why you have those 7 other ritual lines. One of the lines is time. So repetition falls into time, but it's only one of 6. And the tension with repetition is that it can grow, and it can make something grow in meaning, right? Because it's like sometimes tradition, it's like a warm blanket. It's just like I feel safe, I feel home, I feel I have something to hold on to. And sometimes repetition can be rote. And it's like a Sisyphusian prison where you're just like trapped doing the same thing over, and it's lost any personal meaning to you. The only reason it's meaningful is because you do it every year. I think a lot of people feel that way about their turkey on Thanksgiving, right? It's meaningful because we do it every year, but nobody likes it. Right. So that's just the tension. And when you notice a tradition is only meaningful through repetition, it's a good time to start asking those questions. Why are we actually doing this? And what does this mean to us? Why are we doing it? To try to bring to ritualize it in a new way. Sometimes what I say is traditions are meaningful because they're repeated. Rituals are repeated because they're meaningful.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Please, Ezra, sorry, please repeat it.
It's on my Instagram, so you can go find it there. But traditions are meaningful because they're repeated. Rituals are repeated because they're meaningful.
Thank you.
I'll end with one little bit of logistics and then a final tiny ritual if you need to go. Obviously, you know your schedule, so protect your time. This is where to find me. We didn't get to do Q&A, so if you have some questions, please reach out. I'm happy to stay in contact with you all. On my website, you can sign up for my mailing list to stay in touch that way as well. I will send out to everybody a link I mentioned earlier. I have a course if you want to learn more and up your skills as a ritual designer and take a closer look at all of those ritual lines with a community of other people who love this stuff and want to work with you. It's called the Ritual Lab, and I'll be launching a new cohort coming soon. So you can just sign up for the waiting list to be considered for that. Yeah, those are all the logistics. Let's end with just, here's the final ending. We talked about a lot of stuff today. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable, and just think about one thing. If you were going to just take one golden nugget and put it in your pocket and walk away with today, just one thing, just hold it in your mind's eye. And just hold it there for 20 seconds. You can say it a few times to yourself. You can put your hands on your heart if that feels good. It releases oxytocin. Just one thing. Trust that you've got it. You do. Thank you all so much. And I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, and Ezra.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
great.
you so much. Fantastic.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank
See you next
you.
year.